You wouldn't guess it from the chaos playing out on your screen, but behind the smoke, sirens, and shouting, Donald Trump's latest power grab is quietly unraveling. His push to justify extreme federal intervention and even flirt with disrupting elections isn't strengthening his position. It's blowing up in his face politically and legally. On the ground in Minneapolis, something unexpected is happening. While Trump is betting on fear and disorder, local communities are organizing discipline, symbolism, and strategy. And at the same time, inside Washington, the Justice Department is doing Trump no favors, exposing just how hollow his legal threats really are. I'll show you exactly how this is happening, including expert analysis from a former DOJ prosecutor explaining why Trump's legal pathway is collapsing under its own weight. If you want coverage like this, the kind corporate media hesitates to touch, make sure you subscribe. Here's the central tension in Minneapolis right now. How do people protest injustice while refusing to give Trump the chaos he desperately wants? Because any outbreak of violence becomes his excuse to escalate, to invoke extraordinary powers, to justify crackdowns, to claim the country is out of control. And protesters know this. So instead of giving him that excuse, organizers are changing the battlefield. One of the most powerful developments has been the role of clergy, pastors, faith leaders, and community elders putting themselves physically between protesters and provocation. They've been on the streets, but they've also taken the fight directly to corporate America. In one striking moment, clergy gathered at Target's headquarters, protesting the company's cooperation with ICE. Their message wasn't screamed, it was sung, calm, defiant, moral. When faith leaders chant, boycott, and pray in unison, it becomes very hard to spin that into a justification for military force. And then there's the indigenous response, deeply symbolic, deeply rooted. Ritual dances, cultural demonstrations, acts of identity and resistance. Try calling that violent unrest. Even Trump's most aggressive operatives struggle to explain how ancestral dance becomes a national security threat. That's when you know the strategy is working. And you can tell the administration is rattled because now the Justice Department is trying to escalate artificially. Suddenly, they're floating investigations into Minnesota's governor and Minneapolis's mayor. On paper, it sounds intimidating. In reality, legal experts say it's laughable. Former DOJ prosecutor Eli Honig breaks it down plainly. What these officials are doing, speaking out, criticizing federal actions, urging calm or resistance, is textbook First Amendment speech, political speech, protected speech, even if it's angry, even if it's emotional, even if Trump hates it. Honig makes it clear, calling this obstruction is legal nonsense. If the DOJ actually tried to indict elected officials for this, they would lose, fast. But it gets worse. By publicly threatening investigations, DOJ officials may have destroyed their own cases before they ever begin. Public taunts, aggressive social media posts, and vague warnings don't make them look tough, they make them look vindictive. And vindictive prosecution is exactly how cases get tossed out of court. According to Honig, the department isn't just overreaching, it's sabotaging itself. Zooming out, the picture becomes even more alarming. While serious incidents demand careful, methodical investigation, DOJ leadership appears to be rushing to conclusions, dismissing inquiries prematurely, and then turning around to scrutinize victims, families, and political opponents instead. That's not law enforcement. That's chaos at the top. And ironically, that chaos undercuts Trump's own ambitions to suspend elections, to seize control, to invoke extraordinary authority. He would need airtight legal grounding. He doesn't have it. Courts won't accept it, states won't comply, and attorneys general across the country are already preparing to block him at every turn. Trump may believe he can simply muscle his way through the system, but the system, when pushed too far, pushes back. What's becoming clear is this. While Trump thrives on disorder, he cannot survive scrutiny. And right now, scrutiny is everywhere, from the streets of Minneapolis to the courtrooms that will ultimately decide what power he actually has. In trying to look strong, he's revealing weakness. In trying to intimidate, he's exposing incompetence. And in trying to bend democracy to his will, he's discovering just how many people and institutions are prepared to stop him. That's the real story unfolding beneath the noise. And here's the part Trump didn't count on. discipline, not just legal discipline, but moral and strategic discipline from the people he expected to panic, because history shows this clearly. Authoritarian moves only succeed when chaos spirals out of control, when fear dominates, when the public fractures. But in Minneapolis and in cities across the country watching closely, people are refusing to play that role. They're organizing, documenting, de-escalating, and outmaneuvering a strategy built entirely on provocation. That's why Trump's threats are getting louder while his options are shrinking. Every time the Justice Department overreaches, it creates another paper trail, another piece of evidence that courts will examine under a microscope. Every reckless statement, every premature conclusion, every politically charged investigation only strengthens the argument that this isn't about public safety, it's about power. And judges know the difference. State attorneys general know it too. That's why they're already positioning themselves ahead of Trump's next move. Any attempt to seize voting infrastructure, suspend elections, or override state authority would trigger an immediate legal response. Injunctions, emergency filings, federal challenges. Trump isn't facing one opponent, he's facing 50 legal systems that don't answer to him. And unlike Trump, they don't need chaos to win. They need precedent. What Trump is learning, again, is that intimidation only works when it's credible. Right now, it isn't. When the DOJ can't define a crime, can't protect its own cases from collapse, and can't keep its messaging straight, it doesn't project strength. It projects desperation. That desperation is why we're seeing such extreme rhetoric, why investigations are announced before evidence is gathered, why political speech is being treated like criminal conduct. It's the sound of a strategy running out of runway, and the public sees it. People aren't just protesting, they're adapting. They're shifting tactics. They're choosing symbolism over confrontation, unity over fragmentation, and patience over panic. That makes Trump's playbook obsolete, because you can't declare an insurrection when the opposition refuses to act like one. You can't suspend democracy when the legal system is already waiting with a red pen. And you can't rule by fear when people have stopped being afraid. Trump wanted chaos to justify control. What he's getting instead is resistance that's calm, coordinated, and legally grounded. And that may be the one thing he has no answer for. As this continues to unfold, remember this: the loudest threats often come from the weakest positions. And right now, for all his bluster, Donald Trump is standing on very thin ground.